The living fossil, the coelacanth, a primitive fish long believed extinct at the end of the Cretaceous period. Following the Cretaceous-Paleogene extinction event, a mass demise of non-avian dinosaurs and marine reptiles, the last remaining coelacanth would lurk beneath the depths, not resurfacing until 1938 off the coast of West Africa, 66 million years after its presumed extinction. The oldest fossils of the coelacanth would date back more than 410 million years. So just how did this exclusive species survive? With an estimated lifespan up to 100 years, these nocturnal hunters closely related to the lungfish and tetrapods are still evolving to this day. As lungfish would eventually transition to land, it's not without a question that the coelacanth could one day find itself among the surface, surviving and thriving, breathing our air.
This scene from Jack Arnold's 1958 classic Universal Monsters film, Creature from the Black Lagoon, presents one of man's most debated questions among esteemed paleontologists and other scientific individuals in paleoanthropology about our own very existence. Can a creature birthed from man's own egocentric errors be the long-argued missing link? An intriguing concept centering around the belief of half-man, half-fish-like creatures living in the Amazon River, hidden away from society, evolving and learning in ways that man cannot fathom. Years later, Roger Corman and his New Worlds Pictures team would produce and distribute Humanoids from the Deep in late 1979 as a way to update the black and white creature film. Originally titled Beneath the Darkness, Humanoids production team would put together a cast of talented actors in hopes of attracting an actual audience to plunge into this world of gratuitous nudity and pervasive violence. Doug McClure, Ann Turkel, and Vic Morrow would receive top billing, while a young Rob Bottin will design the humanoid creatures and effects in the picture. Director Barbara Peters, a known feminist, was appalled on how much sleaze was added into the finished film without her approved feedback, a job already turned down by director Joe Dante due to the subject material mirroring his previous effort, Piranha. The music was perfectly composed by James Horner. Before providing the soundscape to Aliens and Titanic, Horner cut his teeth on Monster, aka Humanoids from the Deep, and immediately transported us, the audience, into the murky unknown.
Harley, thank you for letting me use my brains for once. Most people don't let me be who I am. Okay, I see what we're working with here.
In one lifetime, this creature seems to evolve in 4 growth stages. It starts out as a fish, but is humanoid this final stage. It's my theory that these creatures are driven to mate with man now.
The film begins beneath the salty, gloomy water. A mysterious force navigates through lush marine gardens, the obscure darkness slowly transitioning to light, the surface world becoming visible. An abundance of fishermen prepare to venture into the vast ocean, hoping to secure ice chests filled with salmon, a species that seems to be a bit scarce as of late. Resident fisherman Jim Hill, along with his brother Tommy, arrive at the pier, lamenting over the sudden disappearance of their favorite catch. Here we meet Hank Slattery, a veteran angler of Noyo, California. The unwelcomed appearance of Johnny Eagle, a proud native who believes concerning the production of a cannery, clashes with Hank and his crew, producing tension between himself and Hank, with Jim caught in the middle. The buck takes to the seas, engines roaring. The vessel is worn down, cracked windows. It's a very nice production touch. This world feels incredibly tangible and lived in. Another local trawler, Deke Jensen, and his crew confront something big tangled in their nets. Deke shouts at his son Jackie to put down his comic book and attend to the winch motor. Underneath the cold surface, a large webbed hand struggles within the snarled netting. Deke's excitement is quickly doused as the winch motor is devoid of gasoline. Below the waves, the mystery catch continues to struggle. Deke calls for the engine to get going as the young boy begins pouring gasoline into the motor. As the pumps fail, the boat is stagnant, floating in open sea. All hell commences to break loose as the boat is in danger of falling apart. Deke calls out to the boy for added help, but amidst the chaos, the gasoline can tips over, flooding the deck. Whatever monstrosity is caught in that net pulls the mast off the hinges, and young Jackie plunges over the deck and into the cold salt water. Deke panics and attempts to rescue Jackie, but it's too late as the large catch is freed from its trap. A large, bubbly cloud of blood colors the surface red. Deke attempts to jump into the crimson-colored water, but the ship's captain struggles with the flare gun before slipping on the gasoline-covered deck, triggering the flare, and the entire boat is engulfed in a fiery explosion, leaving no survivors as the vessel's fiery remains slowly descend into its watery grave. The following morning, most of the local fishermen's dogs were found mutilated. The only canine survivor belonging to Johnny Eagle would later be discovered murdered as well. Hank Slattery would be blamed by a mournful and distraught Johnny Eagle. Tensions rise as fists are thrown, knuckles bleed, and faces swell up. The comical sounds of punches play like an absurd symphony. While the opposing parties skirmish with one another, something is lurking in the darkness, massacring the local canines and observing the women diligently. The next day, Peggy Larson and her boyfriend Jerry take in the beautiful weather, soaking up some sun on a beach as their friend Linda gleefully glazes at the young couple. The duo desire some privacy and embark on a stroll alongside the shoreline before running into the cold water, splashing and descending into the depths. Jerry, always a fool, pretends to disappear underwater, prompting a jump scare on his voluptuous Peggy. The couple share a laugh as the blaring musical strings ramps up the anxiety. The soft, pillowy caress would be the last thing Jerry would feel before he is ultimately dragged beneath the watery surface. The water turns red during the struggle, Jerry's flesh ripping and tearing as the unknown assailant's scaly grip rips apart the young man. Peggy calls out for her lover, his back turned to her. Peggy reluctantly walks over to Jerry. Annoyed with his antics, she turns her companion around, revealing Jerry's mauled face that now resembles ground beef. Peggy panics and scrambles out of the water, reaching the shore, but the killer grabs her by the ankles and drags her across the coarse sand. A large, fish-like humanoid tosses Peggy onto a muddy sandbank and begins having its way with the frightened woman. During this time, Jim and Tommy take a boat ride with Dr. Susan Drake, a scientist working for a company named Kango. Their goal is to build a large cannery near Noyo. These are the plans that pit Johnny Eagle against most of the money-starved town. Dr. Drake's goal is to re-establish the salmon's population within these waters. During this fishing trip, the anglers hook a large catch before the line is severed and a large dark shadow passes alongside the vessel. Back in town, Jim and Johnny Eagle check in on each other after that slapstick brawl. Tommy and Linda agree to take a ride with Johnny to discuss political matters concerning the cannery vote. That night, a couple more teenagers shack up on the beach. Billy and Becky, two locals, entertain themselves using a dummy and bad sex puns. Their flimsy tent is suddenly torn apart just like the warm flesh on Billy's torso. The couple soon fall prey to these monstrous, grotesque, horny creatures from the depths.
Merman, or Lord of Water, master of fish, lakes, and streams, return to Snake Mountain!
As night falls, the treacherous Hank and his goons plot to destroy Johnny Eagle's shack in protest on Johnny's persistent opposition concerning the plans for the cannery. Unbeknownst to the thugs, the humanoids from the deep watch carefully. Johnny suspects the assault and carefully avoids being blown to smithereens. Tommy seeks vengeance by firing off his rifle into the darkness. With Tommy distracted, he is yanked into the dark water by one of the monsters. With Johnny attending the fires, Tommy struggles as he battles for his life. He grabs his rifle and begins striking the mysterious Gillman within the blood-soaked water. Tommy scrambles to lift himself onto the pier, seeking to escape his fate. Johnny finally comes to Tommy's aid, tossing an axe and piercing the monster's tough flesh, sinking the creature back into the nebulous abyss. Suddenly, a second monster ascends and attacks Johnny Eagle. A couple of rifle pops and back into the darkness the mutant descends. Meanwhile, as Linda races back for help, she is attacked and falls victim as her vehicle is forced off a bridge and explodes upon impact. As morning arrives, Dr. Drake, along with Hank, his crew, and the local sheriff, are confronted by Johnny Eagle as he arrives on his boat with a severely injured Tommy. Jim and his wife Carol tend to poor Tommy as Johnny speaks of sea monsters among them. Jim, in search of proof, recruits Johnny and Dr. Drake to further investigate the disappearance of missing townsfolk and the ones really responsible for murdering their canines. With their boat adrift, Dr. Drake pencils a sketch of what mutated beasts may lurk beneath the waves. Jim suspects the doc knows more than what she's letting on. A discovery of caves alongside the coastline pauses that conversation. Our small crew pursues the beach. A hazy fog engulfs one of the monsters, revealing itself for further examination. Just what are these aquatic humanoids, and how long have they been here on the shores? The creatures are tall, lanky, with large craniums highlighting an enhanced mental capacity. Jim begins bucking shots at the monsters, littering their bodies with hot slugs. More and more of the fishmen appear, flanking our hero. Johnny Eagle is almost bodied until Jim's trigger finger puts down his fishy attacker. Back on the beach, Dr. Drake and crew discovers Peggy Larson, still alive, naked and covered in slimy seaweed.
A universe of fantasy. A universe of decay and destruction. A universe of awesome good. A universe of terrifying evil. A universe of heavy metal.
Dr. Drake examines one of the mutant corpses back at her laboratory. Gills and webbed hands hint at the possibility that the creatures may be becoming amphibious, adapting to land from their natural watery habitat. Dr. Drake has long suspected a possible evolution of these creatures and finally is ready to share her research and expose cancel of their skullduggery. DNA 5 was a growth change, and tadpoles infused with this DNA would rapidly stimulate the growth hormones in frogs, reaching adulthood in a matter of days. This same process was used to accelerate the growth of salmon until a bad storm wrecked one of the special experimental tanks, releasing over 3,000 DNA 5 infused fish into the ocean. Kanko kept hush about the accident, forcing Dr. Drake into silence. More primitive fish like the coelacanth would feed on the smaller enhanced fish, forcing life cycles of growth in one single lifespan, creating humanoids intelligent enough to find man as a competitor for food and resources, and the women as hosts for mating to further secure the development of their incredible evolution. With the town's annual festival ongoing, Jim and the others tasked themselves in warning the people of Noyo of the impending invasion. As the festival marches on, I personally can't help but feel nostalgic witnessing Ferris wheels and bright lights illuminating the evening's festivities. Madman Mike Michaels welcomes everyone to the Big Salmon Fest via K-Fish Radio, with Sally, aka Miss Salmon, by his side. What can possibly go wrong? While the grand amusement attractions continue to pile in large crowds, unbeknownst to these salmon enthusiasts, an invasive species of violent and lustful mutants prepared to attack. Hank Slattery and his goon squad soon arrive at the festival, thirsty for some warm beer as the old-time band soldiers on, plucking on guitar strings and slamming on piano keys. Soon after, Jim and company arrive with proof of the fabled sea monsters stalking the beaches. Not even the cheap Budweiser can mask Hank's disgust and disbelief. The creature's wet corpse on full display for all the doubters to witness. The monster's foul odor summons the rest of the pack, crashing from underneath the pier's floorboards, ready for an all-out pillage. Gunfire and panic ensues as the humanoids cause utter mayhem, slaughtering the men and violating the women. No one is safe from these killers. Screams from the victims are drowned out by the constant screeching emanating from the vile invaders. Tactics like destroying the foundation of the pier further encapsulates the untapped intelligence these monsters are capable of. Back home, Carol and her son, who is sound asleep, are being watched from the outside. The beauty of a woman showering herself triggers the sexual urge within the savage intruder. Blood and guts continue to spill throughout the festival, causing mass hysteria to spread like wildfire. While the violence sustains, Jim and Dr. Drake fill the surrounding waters with gasoline from the Beverly Jean, hoping to blow their enemies into extinction. Carol tunes into the radio and discovers the madness for herself as Madman Mike is ripped apart, leaving Sally to be sexually assaulted by the monster. Carol jumps into action, brandishing a weapon to protect her son. Speaking of children, this little man will be severely traumatized witnessing a humanoid fish monster engulfed in flames before his very young eyes. The kid then runs into Hank, asking for his help as his sister's life hangs in the balance. Hank reaches for the child just as Johnny Eagle sprays bullets into the monster. With the mutant subdued, Hank throws himself onto the large pallet, helping the girl to safety just as the monster squeezes onto Hank's leg, ravaging his flesh. Hank screams in agony while his life flashes before his eyes. The loud bang of gunshots pops his eardrums as the beast slumps into its watery grave. Johnny Eagle puts aside his feud with Hank and helps his once enemy to safety. Dr. Drake then finally ignites the gasoline, engulfing the area into an inferno, fleeing the humanoids back into the Fathoms. The film's climax finds Carol fighting for her life and the protection of her child. The creature finally breaks in, but it's Carol whose motherly instincts kicks in, slashing the monster to death repeatedly, mutilating its flesh and exposing its fishy insides as the bloodshed comes to a violent end. Carol stares at the mutated corpse, breathing heavily as Jim arrives home and consults his wife, holding her tight as she confirms their son is safe. The next morning, the town is in disbelief and in complete shambles. Destruction and the dead litter the surrounding area. Jim asks for Dr. Drake's whereabouts and she is confirmed alive, but left town in a hurry. The film ends with Dr. Drake and Peggy Larson, who is bedridden in a hospital, clearly in agony. Peggy attempts to birth a child. However, Dr. Drake cannot believe what she is witnessing. Peggy's belly suddenly grows larger and larger until it rips open, splattering blood over the doctors and surrounding walls and ceiling. A mutated being rises from the ripped womb, causing Peggy to scream in excruciating pain. The infant monster cries out in a horrific shriek, closing the film. Humanoids from the Deep is a treasure among monster movie fans. At its heart, it's a Roger Corman production in its purest form. Underneath the Hollywood hood is a time capsule, encapsulating the late 70s and a swirling vortex of cheap beer and gasoline caps, forging a path into quite possibly the greatest era of our time. Obviously, I'm a bit biased, but as a lifelong fan of horror, this gem is a reminder of a time long forgotten. Like the coelacanth, humanoids from the deep will always be alive, striving. This film is a brutally honest representation of a time long forgotten, flaws and all. Whether it's the outlandish G.I. Joe punches or poor man's Luke Skywalker, this movie is loaded with an unapologetic charisma that's impossible to dislike unless you're easily offended. Humanoids from the Deep is perfect the way it is. A reminder to not take everything you watch so seriously. Lose yourself in the immersion. The ocean is a mystery of wonder, and deep down beneath the surface, hidden within the dark, cold depths, evolution is occurring, waiting for the right moment to take back what is rightfully theirs.